In 1925, a German court handed down a death sentence, not for a person, but for a movie. Every single copy of what is now considered a foundational piece of horror cinema was ordered to be tracked down and burned. That film was the 1922 silent feature, Nosferatu. The problem was, its director, F. W. Murnau, had essentially stolen the plot directly from the novel Dracula. He never secured the rights from the original author's estate, leading Bram Stoker's widow to file a massive plagiarism lawsuit. Since copyright law across different countries was highly inconsistent at the time, the production company, Prana Film, thought they could bypass the Stoker estate using a surprisingly naive strategy. They kept the entire narrative structure intact, but swapped out the names. This chart shows the original Stoker characters on the left, Dracula, Harker, and Renfield. The studio crossed out those iconic names and wrote in their own.
Dracula became Count Orlok, Jonathan Harker was renamed Thomas Hutter, and Renfield became Knock. The core vampire mythology, however, remained untouched. Florence Stoker saw right through the name changes. She sued Prana Film, won the case, and bankrupted the studio. The judges went far beyond awarding financial damages. They demanded the physical erasure of the movie, ordering every existing print destroyed. If that court order had been fully executed, the visual language that defines the monsters we see on screen today would look completely different. Here is a map of Europe tracing the film's unexpected survival. While the German studio collapsed under the lawsuit, individual reels of Nosferatu had already slipped past the borders. These rogue copies hid safely in private collections and foreign archives, far out of reach of the German authorities. Back in Germany, the society that produced this film was recovering from the severe aftermath of the First World War. The public mood was grim, prompting artists to reject traditional storytelling in favor of exploring darker, more psychological themes. This environment birthed German Expressionism, an artistic movement that prioritized internal anxiety over literal reality. Instead of trying to mimic the physical world, Expressionist directors built exaggerated, distorted sets filled with harsh shadows to visualize psychological tension. Most silent films of this era achieved that distinct look by confining their productions to soundstages, using heavily painted artificial backdrops. The creators of Nosferatu took a completely different approach by moving their cameras outside. They shot the movie on location, utilizing authentic castles, dense forests, and rugged mountains across Germany and Slovakia. Placing a warped, dreamlike monster into an actual physical landscape gave the movie a uniquely unsettling texture. It made the horror feel as though it existed somewhere out in the real world. The central figure of that horror, Count Orlok, was designed to look repulsive. Actor Max Schreck wore makeup that gave him a skeletal frame, a bald, deformed head, elongated fingers, and front fangs resembling a rat. Unlike the suave, aristocratic nobleman that Hollywood would later popularize, Orlok looked like a walking corpse, carrying disease and decay wherever he went. This terrifying design is used most effectively in a scene where Orlok is climbing the stairs to reach his victim. We never actually see the vampire ascending. We only watch his distorted shadow stretching across the wall. By forcing the audience to watch a silhouette, the film weaponizes the viewer's own imagination. The mind fills in the blanks, making the unseen threat far scarier than a direct shot of the actor. Decades before directors had access to digital effects or advanced prosthetics, this sequence proved that careful composition and lighting were enough to generate genuine dread. Count Orlok established a template that endures today, proving that audiences are deeply frightened by creatures that look ancient, parasitic, and completely divorced from humanity. Today, that single, unauthorized production has outlasted the studio that funded it, the author who inspired it, and the legal system that tried to destroy it. The harsh silhouettes and high-contrast lighting techniques that Murnau utilized soon spread far beyond the borders of 1920s Germany. These methods were exported worldwide, laying the technical foundation for the 1940s film noir genre and the visual tone of modern Gothic cinema. You can trace a straight line from Nosferatu's exaggerated expressionist imagery into the stylized, shadowy worlds created by modern directors like Tim Burton. Filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro actively utilize that same creature design philosophy, building monsters that feel physically ancient and deeply unnatural. And directors like Robert Eggers continue the tradition of dropping extreme psychological horror into meticulously researched, highly realistic historical environments. Those surviving rogue copies from the 1920s have since been painstakingly restored by film archivists, ensuring these foundational visual techniques remain available for new generations of filmmakers to study. When the courts ordered Nosferatu to be burned, they intended to erase the film entirely. Instead, by forcing those few remaining reels into hiding, they inadvertently ensured the survival of a movie that would go on to build the modern horror genre.